Hello, I'm Franey, the Director of International Programming, and we're delighted to have with us here in India, but with us, the director, co-producer, an actor and actress of Godavari. Let me introduce them. Nikhil Mahajan is the director and co-writer of the film. Jitendra Joshi is the producer and main actor, and also the writer of the lyrics of the music. And Gauri Nalawade is the actress. So glad you could be with us. Can I ask each of you where you are sitting now? Are you all in the same city?
Yeah,
Yes.
we are all in the same city.
Same city, different
Which
places.
is?
We are all in
Mumbai?
Mumbai,
Okay.
and we are all in our respective homes because it's quite bright and early here in Bombay.
Maybe we can start by asking you the precise situation of the city, because I know that it's not far. It's the path of the river is explained a bit. We might have some awareness of it, but so the film is shot in Nashik city, correct? And how far to the east of Mumbai is that?
It is around 200 kilometers from Bombay. It's not very far. It's connected very well through roads, as well as it's like a 2.5 hour drive. A really breezy, scenic kind of a drive, if I may. And it's one of the major cities in Maharashtra, the state that we live in. So it's not very far from where we live, actually.
And we know from the film, but I think it's interesting to say that we know Varanasi and the Ganges around the world, but this is lesser known, but also has the status of a sacred city in similar ways, which are described so well in the film. So is it someplace that you've traveled through your lifetimes too, or did you know the city well before making this film, or not?
I have never had a chance to visit Nasik before I made the movie. In fact, I went there for the first time to work on this picture. I was still writing the story, and when I mentioned the story to Jitendra, he said that it feels like this is a good fit for Nasik, and I could only know what he meant when I actually went there and saw the city, because it was exactly what I was envisioning, and then some more. So it was for me, it was the first brush of the city. So in a way, when you watch the film, it's pretty much from the eyes of a stranger to the city. So if I ever make a film there again, I think it's going to look very different than what Godavari does.
So maybe you can just describe for us the process for the film. So you're both obviously Nikhil and Jitendra, and I don't know to what extent, Gauri, you were involved from the beginning, but as the producer of the film, not just the actor, you must have been on very near the beginning, Jitendra. So could you just describe that process?
Alan, I've always, as an actor, I work in different kind of projects, cinema. But the kind of cinema I love, the kind of cinema I admire, I always wanted to act or to make that kind of cinema. And I genuinely feel that Nikhil has the power and the power of creation, which we can see in Godavari. So I always wanted to do something like what Godavari is. And that's why I turned to be a producer. About the story, yeah, it is very close to my heart. because the city in which we shot, that's the first city and that's the first river which I got into when I was a kid, along with my grandma. And in India, there is a sacred time. It is called as Kumbh Mela. And when I was a kid, I was 8, 9 years old, I went into the river for the first time with my grandma. So I don't know how it happened, but it happened for me. It's my first film, and getting into the river of uh, making the 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 journey I have started, and I'm glad that I started with Godavari and with Nikhil and with my team. So that's how it's the simplest answer of why I became a producer.
And I understand that you have worked in the commercial cinema as well. And this is more towards the art film tradition. Can I ask you, Nikhil, if you can just tell us a bit about both Jitendra and Gauri's reputation in cinema in India? Interesting for us to know.
Jitendra is like very, very well known, a very popular commercial film actor. He's done close to 30 feature films in Marathi language. And he's also gained recent popularity because he was starring in Sacred Games, the Netflix original. And his character in that is very beloved to audience. Gauri has been like working for at least 10 years, but she's predominantly done television until she started very selectively doing films. She doesn't do a lot of film work. It's mostly very driven from the heart for her. So I think that's why we don't see her too often in films. We just last saw her in Disciple. And now she's done our film Godavari. So, but they're both extremely popular actors in Maharashtra, and as are everybody else who stars in the film. It's, I may say, an all-star cast if we are looking at this part of the world.
Even with my limited knowledge of Indian cinema, I mean, I do see a lot of Indian films in my work, but not as many as you would, but very recognizable faces and such great actors in this film. Gauri, was this your first real quality time spent in the city? What about your own relationship to the city, Nashik city?
I had been to city, I had seen the city, but the moment I entered for this film, for this particular film, and as my character Gautami, it was all different. The kind of set and the kind of atmosphere was in the city was completely overwhelming for me. And like Jitendra said, it is the river itself and the kind of vibrations we get. You don't need to do anything else as an actor. The working, as you say, it's in there. It's in the air, and the kind of setting Nikhil had done to the places where we shot, the house, and everything was a character, and that really helped me. And I really loved those days of shooting.
I wonder if you have a sense of the difference between Indian culture and sort of more Western culture, enough for you to speak to this, but I was struck with how well you describe the clash between, well, it's tradition and modernity, but also different ways of being, and the journey of the characters, and what it means to have a relationship with the river in the context of life and death. And so I think it's very interesting from my point of view, and I think the audience that are listening to us. And I wonder if you can just talk a bit about whether you think this is a constant in Indian culture that it's hard to imagine changing, or whether, in fact, things are changing in this globalized world, and those traditions too, those particularly Indian types of spirituality, are, you feel, at some risk of being homogenized with the world at large.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel, I always believe, Alan, that films, beyond storytelling and beyond taking an audience on a journey, should also serve as a snapshot of the times that they were made in. I always strive to bring that to my films, is a quality of, if 50 years down the line somebody watches Godavari, it should be as accurate a snapshot of 2021 Nasik as it's humanly possible to do within the confines of commerce. But to come back to your question, why I said that is, the change is not just there, but it is extremely powerful. It is very fast. With my limited understanding of the Western culture, I do feel that some things have been introduced to our way of living here in India, and they do make life simpler. It is easier to be detached and be individual in your way of living, and that is an exact straight contrast with what our way of life traditionally is to be living in a joint family with. So on a very fundamental molecular level, it affects us, because it is a straight divergence from how we've been taught to live. So with every passing generation, it becomes even more difficult to kind of acclimatize. And then it kind of seeps down into things like, pollution versus cleaning up. Like, but cleaning up does not, in context of the river, does not necessarily mean that you have to let go of the religious aspect of it entirely. So it is through this film we've tried to kind of find an answer to if it's possible to strike a balance. I don't know if it is, but between all of us and all that we tried to do is see both the contrasting point of views of the older generation and the younger generation, and see if there is some way in which they can meet, because we do understand that modernism is as important as maintaining tradition. So it's just trying to find that balance. It's especially difficult because the change is massive.
Well, I thought the music was particularly appropriately constructed, because you have the very interesting blends of the Indian classical, Western classical, and even some much more contemporary flavors. So I wonder, maybe Jitendra, you can, my question for you, the lyrics are very important, particularly in the end of the film. Is this something you have done before? You've written lyrics to songs, or was this an adventure for you that was unique?
It is always an adventure for me whenever I write anything, whether it is for the film or for myself, because that's the only way where I speak from my core, my soul. So I was here to become a lyricist 24 years back, but eventually I got to know that no, I can run my house with my acting only. So I focused on my acting. Yeah, I love to write, and what I tried to write in Godavari is, as you said, the last song, which takes you to. It talks about the journey. It talks about uh, the janma, it talks about your journey after your janma is over, your life is over. And the first song talks about all the chaos of is happening in the character's mind. And there is one song in the middle which is more kind of a folkish song. So while writing those songs, I chose particular words which has that texture, which people who know Marathi will understand more. But yes, here I want to thank Nikhil, because what you are getting from those lyrics is because Nikhil has done the subtitling so well, so apt, so correct, or he just adapted those lyrics and he has shown the mirror to my lyrics. So that's why it is being appreciated from people like you, and I'm thankful for that. But yeah, this is lyrics writing is something which I love, and as you correctly said, the music. Our music director, Mr. A.V. Prafulla Chandra, he is one of the finest music directors who can deliver this kind of original score. And while doing it, we were discussing ragas, we were discussing the importance of that particular raga with that particular scene, with the mindset of the character. Like while fathers walk, we discussed that Shivaranjani Rag will be more appropriate. And he just did it in next half an hour. Like, all the instruments, it was so wonderful to listen to all the instruments which are rooted in this soil of India, and that is being played for our background score along with the Western instruments, and as you said. So yeah, it was. I'm so glad that you are noticing each and everything which uh, we worked on and we took care of. Thank you, Alan.
Your role is such an interesting one. It's a difficult role to play in a way, because you have to have this transformation and be prickly and unlikable in the beginning. It reminded me of Scrooge, Charles Dickens' Scrooge, and I don't know if that was conscious, but it's very interesting. And Gauri, I thought you and the other women in the film are very good at having dignity and integrity and strength, despite having to move out of the way for this powerful man. I just am curious about, I did read an article online about how the release of the film was disturbed because of COVID. And we've ended up having the world premiere here of it, which it's great for us, but it's a shame that you've run into these difficulties. So can you just tell us what the plan is from here?
We always wanted to have a festival run for this film, but at the same time, the date we had decided for the theatrical release here, we just thought we'll do an international premiere after our domestic release and then do the continue the. So this was always the plan, to do the fall festivals, but our idea was to do it after our domestic theatrical, partly because of just financially, making sense, securing the film. Right now, it's we were just yesterday discussing that we are just extremely privileged to be even making a film in these times. So honestly, no complaints. It is just the world at large is going through a catastrophe. So, whether we can release our film or not, I think is a very minor problem as compared to what society is facing at large. So it's okay. I'm sure there's a greater payout at the end of this. But from here, we travel to another festival in New Zealand, and then hopefully we'll have our Indian premiere at one of the Indian festivals, but we don't have confirmation yet. But let's see, we are hoping to release it in the Christmas weekend if theaters reopen and if it's safe for people to go back to cinemas. But that's the plan as of now.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best with it, and we're so grateful for you being here with us and for the film itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you for programming the film.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody in the audience. I hope you guys enjoyed the film.
And one more thing, for all the Marathi people, Marathi audiences watching there, आपली गोदावरी तिथपर्यंत आली आहे, ती इथून पुढे आणखी जास्तीत जास्त लोकांपर्यंत कशी नेता येईल, जर ती तुम्हाला आवडली असेल तर तुम्ही नक्की प्रयत्न करा. इथून प्रेम तुमच्यासाठी. I love you all. Thank you for being there for Godavari. Thank you.